Well, it's the week after Easter. I'm wondering, have you seen my brother Chris? He had long dreads before. He was supposed to do today's digital short with you. Actually, I'm just kidding. I actually got a haircut and I don't have a twin. In any case, last weekend was Easter. And it was the second Easter egg hunt that I did with my family during the current COVID season. Now, even though times are a little different, we were able to treat them to a time of fun where they were able to go run around, go crazy looking for eggs. Although different, it was great seeing their joy because it reminded me of when I used to do it back in the day. And I'm just grateful that I got to see my kids smile and have a great time. But you see what I mean? Easter is awesome, and it's not just because of the candy and the games and the good food and the time with family. Easter is something worth celebrating because it's the day that reminds us that something amazing God did to show us that He loves us and wants to be in a relationship with us no matter what. What exactly am I talking about? Well, at Easter, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. As my friend Anthony taught us last week, the word resurrection means that Jesus died and came back to life. And that is something worth celebrating because, it's just cool. How often does someone die and come back to life? And 2, it means that death was defeated. And 3, it means that nothing can separate us from God's love. No sin, no mistake, no misstep, no decision. Because of Jesus and what He did for us at Easter, we can know that we are loved, accepted, forgiven by God no matter what. Now maybe you're like, cool story and all, but I don't see how Jesus coming back to life has anything to do with me or my life. I mean, how is it possible for God to love me no matter what? If that's how you feel, then I'd say that I totally understand. I felt that way before too. And honestly, sometimes I still do. Even though I believe in God and know how much He loves me, I also know I'm not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes, and because of that, it can be really hard to feel like I am really loved, accepted, and forgiven by God, no matter what. And I think that happens for a lot of reasons. When we make bad choices, it's easy to feel like God's far away. After all, He knows that we cheated on our test or lied to an adult or looked at something online we weren't supposed to or posted something that is mean about one of our friends on social media. And there's no way that He wouldn't know what we did, right? Well, sometimes we feel guilty about the things that we've done, and because of that, we hide from God. We stop spending time with Him or talking to Him or showing up at church or even here for the digital shorts. After what we did, it just seems like there's no way God would want much to do with us. And besides, we already feel bad enough about our mistakes. Do we really need God to remind us that what we did was wrong? Or sometimes when we mess up, we feel like God's mad at us. After all, it seems like God wants us to live really good and almost perfect lives, right? It's easy to feel like He's mad when we make mistakes, or that He's disappointed because not only have we messed up, but we just keep messing up. We just can't seem to stop making some of our bad choices. And because of that, we feel like God is mad or frustrated or even maybe done with us completely. Big or small, our mistakes have a way of making us feel like after what we've done, no one could actually love and accept us. Nobody could truly forgive us, especially not God. But the good news is, that's where Easter comes in. All this stuff about Jesus dying for our sins and offering us forgiveness, His resurrection, making a way for us to be close to God forever, it's true. And believing this for ourselves has the power to change everything. To help us see what I'm talking about, let's look at an encounter Jesus had in the New Testament. You know, the part of the Bible that was written after He came to earth. The encounter was with a guy named Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends and followers during His ministry. Peter was a fisherman who completely left his life and career to follow Jesus. He eventually became one of the leaders in the early church and shared the message and hope of Jesus with others. So you'd probably look at a guy like Peter and think he pretty much had it together. No mistakes, no mess ups, nothing to keep him from feeling loved, accepted, and forgiven by God. Right? Not so fast. See, Peter was also known for making some pretty big mistakes. He had a way of acting first and thinking later, which turned into a recipe for a lot of major mess ups in his life. And one of the biggest happened right around Easter. As Jesus was nearing the end of his life, he knew what was coming. He knew that he was going to be captured and killed on a cross. And he knew that this meant a lot of potential pain and danger for his disciples, including Peter. After all, they had dedicated their lives to following Jesus. They were closer to him than anyone. So when Jesus, their leader, was arrested and taken to be killed, of course they'd be in danger of being taken with him. To prepare them for what was ahead, Jesus warned his disciples of the events about to take place. And Peter, well, he promised to stand by Jesus to the death. But when it came down to it, and Jesus actually was arrested, what did Peter do? He denied even knowing Jesus. Not once, not twice, but 3 different times that night. Ouch! Talk about messing up. I mean, I can't imagine coming back from that. After Jesus' death, Peter and the other disciples weren't sure what to do. Their friend and teacher had been killed, and they were left alone, afraid, and in Peter's case, guilty. But then, that amazing thing we celebrate at Easter still happened. Jesus rose from the dead. He came back to life. And one of the first things he did was seek out his friends, including Peter. And after Jesus' resurrection, his friends actually went back to their old lives. So Peter went back to being a fisherman. One night, when the disciples were out fishing with no luck, someone from the shore called out to them. To the disciples' surprise, it was actually Jesus. And Peter actually dove into the water and swam to the shore just to see him again. Now remember, one of the last exchanges Peter had with Jesus, Peter had denied knowing Jesus in his last moments alive. Because of that, you might think that Jesus greeted Peter with less than a warm welcome. But look at what happened. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. And Jesus repeated the question. "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep." Jesus said a third time. He asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. He said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you," Jesus said. "Then feed my sheep." You see, Jesus gave Peter a chance to right his wrongs. How many times did Peter deny knowing Jesus? 3. And how many times did Jesus give Peter the chance to show that he loved him? That's right, 3. That right there is pretty incredible. I think Jesus knew the guilt Peter must have been carrying around. And I think he knew that Peter probably felt like his failures kept him from God's love or forgiveness. But here's Jesus extended not 1, not 2, but 3 chances for Peter to make it right, to be forgiven. And not just that, Jesus wanted Peter to continue to have a place in God's story. So often I think we feel like our own mistakes or failures not only keep us from God's love, but they keep him from wanting to use us for big and important things in this world. But when Jesus asked Peter to take care of his sheep here, he wasn't talking about actual sheep, although that might be cool. He was actually talking about his followers, other Christians who would one day come to know and follow Jesus too. And that's a pretty big job. And it's one that Jesus offered to Peter because he loved him, believed in him, and knew that his failures weren't the end of the story. And I want you to know that the same is true for you. Your mistakes and mess ups don't disqualify you from God's love. They don't keep you from being close to him or even being used to do great things for him. Because of Jesus' death and resurrection that we celebrate at Easter, you are forgiven. You are free to be loved by God no matter what. And that is something to celebrate. Easter reminds us that we're forgiven no matter what. What I love about this story is the way that it demonstrates God's love for us when we make mistakes. Jesus didn't move away from Peter when he failed. Instead, Jesus came towards him. And at the same is actually true for us. God moves towards us in the middle of our mistakes, offering us forgiveness and a chance to start again. So today and during this Easter season and next year ahead, I want you to think about what you feel is keeping you from God's love and forgiveness. Is it a bad choice? A series of mistakes? A secret that nobody knows? Whatever it is, I want you to know that because of Jesus, that thing in your life doesn't have the power to separate you from God's love. It can't keep you from Him. Why? Easter reminds us that we're forgiven no matter what. And because you're forgiven, you don't have to worry about being separated from God. So today, make a choice to take one step towards God. Maybe for you, that's simply saying a prayer or committing to learn more about Him by reading the Bible. Maybe it's listening to worship music and thinking about what the lyrics mean to you. Maybe it's asking for His forgiveness and help to start over. Or maybe it's asking a parent or someone you look up to this week to keep helping you figure out what you think about faith. Whatever it looks like for you, I want you to try to take a step towards God in your life this week, knowing that there is nothing that can separate you from Him. Why? Because Easter reminds us that we're forgiven no matter what. Over the past 3 weeks, we've been talking a lot about the Easter season and what Jesus' ultimate sacrifice meant not only thousands of years ago, but for all of us right now as well. And these 3 people saw and experienced the resurrection of Jesus with their own eyes. And we can believe it's true because they shared about it with us. Through John's story, we're reminded that we're loved no matter what. The task of spreading the word of Jesus' resurrection was given to Mary Magdalene and showing us that we're important no matter what. And we just learned through Peter's experience with Jesus that we're forgiven no matter what. Because Jesus died and came back to life for all of us. We're loved, important, and forgiven no matter what. Nothing can change that. And I think that that is something to celebrate. So as we wrap up our series in Easter season, I want you to think about this question and put your answers in the comments below, or ask your parent this question and talk about it. How does it feel to know you are forgiven no matter what? Much love, friends, and we will see you all next time at Middle School Digital Shorts.